All right, welcome back to the DadWise podcast. We are in the middle of a series, A Dad's Guide to Pregnancy. In honor of my fourth child, I am thinking through all of these things again, how to prepare for a baby, and so I thought I'd share them with you. If you haven't heard the first episode, you can go back and listen to that on the podcast. That one is dealing with the first trimester, how to support your wife with morning sickness and all that goes along with those first stages of pregnancy. Today we're going to be talking about conversations that you need to have before the baby comes, which is kind of second-ish trimester. Good time to do that. But before we get into that, I wanted to just make a couple quick announcements. A book that I wrote just came out. It's called 12 Rules for Dad Life. It's 12 different rules for how to be an awesome dad. Covers all things from finances to discipline to relationship with your wife. And I tried to keep it short and sweet. Each chapter is pretty easy to digest. There is a hard copy, a soft copy, a digital copy, and a audio version coming as soon as I can get that all recorded. So go check that out. There'll be a link in the description there. The second announcement is that just this week I started a Facebook group for dads, DadWise Facebook group, and I'd love to have you guys jump on there. I'm excited about the potential for discussion, interaction, sharing tips and tricks and dad life stuff with each other. So it's going to be a paid group through a Patreon subscription, but if you sign up before August 1st, you'll get in for free, rewarding the early adopters, the people who are here from the start, the OG DadWise group. So there'll be a link in there, and I'd love to have you join me on that. Just kind of fill out the little questionnaire and say, let me in, and then you'll be in. So that's all the announcements for today. We're going to talk about what to talk about before your baby comes. And all of these are in a blog posts also, so you can go check out that blog series if you would rather read, but most people would rather watch. So here you go. First side note, a little bonus tip for you. Your wife is pregnant and her body is changing, and so you'll want to be verbally affirming her. Tell her she's beautiful. Tell her you love her. Be close to her physically, emotionally, spiritually. Now is the time when many women feel very vulnerable. My wife doesn't like it when I go far away when she's pregnant. I don't know if it's a primal thing, but she desires me to be close because she's got a baby coming and she needs a man around to protect her while she's hunkered down at home. So be close to your wife during this time. Speak words of truth to her. Speak words of love to her. And that will help you out greatly during this process. That was a bonus tip. One thing you want to be talking about and thinking about and kind of planning towards is your identity change. So if you haven't had a baby before, you are now becoming a father. And so there's a lot of different identities that dads take on once they have a kid. Playmate, wrestle buddy. You kind of take a back seat. Your wife is primarily going to be focusing on the baby now. So a lot of dads have to kind of deal with that shift and maybe a little bit of jealousy that comes with that. But you are going to be a father. And so just let that sink in. Talk about your baby as your son or your daughter, not as your buddy or your friend, and let the weight, the mantle of responsibility sit on you and let that transform you. So as you speak those words out, it will start to change the way you think about yourself and the new role that you're taking on. And I always encourage dads to be the leaders of their family, and so take the initiative in that. And you already are because you're watching this video or listening to this podcast. We've also got a family game plan PDF that you can download and start working out your vision for your family, what you guys want to be as you grow into this new role. That's a download on the dadwise.co website, or on Instagram. You can find that in my links. And now the logistics. Where to have the baby is going to be a big discussion. There's a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and I'll tell you mine because that's what I'm doing here. So we've had all three of our babies at a birth house. 2 minutes down the road, and we're planning to have the fourth there. And the reasons why we like having babies at a birth house is because it is super chill. We just have one midwife, me and my wife, usually at the birth house. Last time there was another lady giving birth, so there was two midwives, two women giving birth, and two dads, but in different rooms. They have 3 different birthing rooms, just in case they have a triple header on a certain day. But we've loved our experience with the midwives. They're very affirming. They empower the woman, your wife, to trust her body, to lean into motherhood, and to really just let her do her thing. And so they're kind of there as support, and they monitor to make sure everything's going all right. But I've heard stories about hospitals, and I don't know, I've never done it, but hospitals can be a little more intense, more people coming and going, different people changing shifts, nurses, doctors coming, telling you their opinions, what they think you should do. You can get an epidural at a hospital, which is a bonus that you can't at the birth house that we go to. So we've gone with all natural births. This time for our fourth, they have some laughing gas, not nitrous oxide, and so they let you kind of self-administer that. And so my wife's looking forward to having a little bit of pain killing for this fourth one. Since she knows what she's getting into, she's looking forward to that. But yeah, we've loved our midwife experience. You can go, there's all sorts of different things. You can do free birth, which is basically no one's allowed to come and help you out. You just do it on your own. If you've had babies before, that might be a good way to go. I would be nervous doing that, never having done it before. But at this point, I think we could, if we had to. I could deliver a baby. I'm planning to catch the fourth baby this time, so I'm looking forward to that. In the birth house, we do a water birth, and so that's an option. I don't know if all hospitals have it, but giving birth into the water is like a nice transition for the baby, and they're still getting oxygen from their umbilical cord, so they can come out in the water, and they're only in the water for like half a second, and then onto mom's chest. So that's an option that you can discuss. Water birth, how much intervention you want to have. These are all going to be conversations that go into where you have the baby, because if you want an epidural, you won't be able to do it at a birth house, or you won't be able to do free birth for sure if you want an epidural, because you can't give yourself an epidural, I'm pretty sure. But another thing you'll want to discuss is whether or not you want a doula. And so a doula is basically a birth assistant or coach or helper. They're not the midwife. They're not the doctor. Some of them are trained as midwives, but they can be there to help with breathing, with walking you through when to push and how to think. And there's different techniques like hypnobirthing and different ways to kind of get your body in tune and your mind in tune with your body, I guess is a better way to say it. Because your body knows what it's doing. It's really the mind that is the problem. For our third baby, Rocco, my wife was just really afraid and got stuck in her head. And so she overthought it, and it made the labor take a lot longer. And she didn't lean into her body. She didn't trust her body and her instincts, and so she kind of overthought it. So a doula can help with the mental game, with different techniques for managing pain. I know some people bring in a comb to grab onto to like divert the pain, or to bite onto. They have like, I don't know what they're called, but like little blankets or scarves that they help to like pull the pressure off the stomach while labor is happening. And so there's all sorts of different things a doula can help with. That'll be someone that you have to hire privately. Midwives or doctors can recommend somebody, but make sure you interview them. Make sure you get good vibes from them. You don't want someone with bad vibes in your laboring room. That can mess up a lot of things. Laboring positions, you'll probably talk about this in a birthing class. That's something you'll want to do. I don't know if I said that before, but go to the birthing class with your wife. It'll help kind of prepare you and your wife for what's coming. You'll also want to discuss if you're even going to be there. I'm assuming since you're watching this that you're planning to be there. Most dads are nowadays. It's not the 1950s where you just wait in the waiting room for them to tell you you're a dad. Most dads want to be involved. I know some dads that just aren't helpful and don't like blood and are squeamish about it, and so they don't want to be there. I've loved being in the room with my wife, watching her press into her, I don't even know what to call it, primal beastly instincts, is wild. And you'll have a different perspective of your wife than you've ever had before. Her strength and her power really come out in childbearing. She'll probably scare you with the sounds that she makes. Some dads are kind of weirded out by like watching a baby come out. I usually sit on the edge of the bathtub with my wife's like shoulders on my knees, and so that way I'm not seeing everything. But I peek around and I see like the hairy thing coming out of my wife, and it's bizarre. But I don't know. It's different. It's not like it doesn't mess up your attraction to your wife later. At least not for me. I've never been more attracted to my wife than when she was leaning into her womanhood. I don't know. So those are decisions you have to make. That's my opinion. After the birth happens, you'll have to talk about different things like vaccinations and how much medication to give your baby right after they come out. They put like a little eye thing on them to make sure. I don't remember what it's called. Vitamin K, maybe. I'll have to put some words over the top to correct myself, but I'll Google that later. And then then they'll ask you like what kind of stuff you want to do. And we've just delayed all vaccinations for our kids now. We're not huge fans of the amount and the earliness that they administer most of the vaccinations. So if you need more info on that, I just listened to the Rogan episode with Robert Kennedy, and it was wild. I don't know. I mean, some people will probably want to discount it or fact check it, but it seemed pretty convincing to me, and it was kind of in line with what we already believe about the world and just the fact that we don't need as much as doctors and the government tell us that we need. So talk about vaccines. Ask your doctor about delaying vaccinations. That's an easy thing to do. They'll probably think you're crazy and look at you funny, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. So delaying it is also just a great way to give yourself more time to think about it and to read more and watch more and think more about it. You'll want to talk about circumcision, if you're going to circumcise your baby or not, if he's a boy. We decided not to. It just seemed brutal, and I didn't want to watch that happen. And the boys have been fine. Their penises look a little different than mine, but I'm not worried about that. People talk about it being a sanitation thing, cleanliness thing, but you can teach them to clean themselves just fine, and it's been no problem so far. And if my boys want to get circumcised later, they sure can. I'll leave that option up to them later on in life if they're interested in converting to Judaism. But I don't see any reason that you need to do that, but I could be convinced otherwise. Actually, no, I can't. I'm not going to circumcise my fourth. So you can do it if you want. The next thing you'll want to talk about is medical leave and finances. So who's going to stay home with the baby? Both of you, one of you, neither of you. Someone needs to stay home with the baby. And so I don't know, not many states have great paternity leave. I'm in Washington State, and so I get paid family medical leave for 3 months, and I can take it like whenever I want for up to a year. So if you're in Washington, look up paid family medical leave. You can sign up for that. I own my own business, and so I just get paid what I would normally get paid. So I just send them like my financial records from the last few months, and they just reimburse me for that. Up to, I don't even know what the percentage is. If you're over a certain threshold, they drop the amount they give you. But I wasn't over the threshold, so I didn't have to worry about that. So my wife and I decided that my wife would be the one who stays home, and that's worked out great. She's been a full-time stay-at-home mom since we had kids. She runs our Airbnbs and stuff, but all that can be done remotely and just a couple hours a day. So that's been great. She's breastfed all of our babies, which is another conversation we'll have to have, which kind of plays into who's staying home, who's taking time off. But talk about it. I think it's important for the moms to be near the babies, especially early on, if she can, and if you can afford her to stay home, do it, and maybe cut back on some other areas, sell a car, do something so that you can afford it. A lot of people just say we can't afford it, but you can afford it if you try. So if you value that time that your wife will get with her child, your child, then you can make it happen. So I'm planning to take a couple weeks off right after the baby, and then just kind of staggering leave, maybe working 4 days a week, because owning my own business means I can't just disappear for 3 months or all my clients will leave. So I'm going to try to take some time off to support my wife during that season. But we have in-laws that come into town and help us out, which has been amazing. That's another topic of conversation, is family. Who is allowed to see the baby? Who's going to come help? How much are they going to help? Are they going to live in your house? All of that stuff is something that you need to talk about with your wife. You will need help after the baby comes. It just is what it is. Especially if you have more than one kid, because your wife is going to just want to be resting, especially like if she has a C-section or any other kind of complications in birth. She'll need to be in bed for a while. I just read The First 40 Days, which is like a cookbook, but really like a philosophy of the first 40 days after birth, and they just recommend staying in the house for 40 days at least and limiting all sorts of activities, just giving you time to recharge. And that's a great gift you could give your wife, but you'll need help to do the cooking, the cleaning, and if you're still working, to have the household managed will be an important thing for you to figure out. So my father and mother-in-law will be in town. The plan is for the guys, me and Grandpa, to take the older kids, we have 3, out on activities when we need it, and then for her mom to be there attending to her when she needs it. So she'll run the house while my wife is in bed breastfeeding. So I didn't finish the conversation about breastfeeding. So you talk about this with your wife. Breastfeeding is really good for your baby. I would recommend it. A lot of people bottle feed because breastfeeding can be difficult, but you can get a lactation consultant to help you get through the breastfeeding process. Some babies are tongue-tied. We have friends who had difficulty with it, but pushed through and made it happen. And it's beneficial for their health and all sorts of stuff. It's good for the mom, regulating her hormones and recovery. It helps burn fat and helps mom cut her baby weight. And it's all sorts of good stuff. So try to do that if you can. Allow your wife to breastfeed. And if you get a pump, then she can pump, and then you can bottle feed sometimes during the night. So talk about breastfeeding, look more into that, but I recommend it. The other thing you'll have to figure out is sleeping, where the baby's going to sleep and how the baby's going to sleep. We usually sleep with a bassinet next to our bed, just a little basket basically that's lifted off the ground. And my wife will breastfeed when the baby needs her. And I usually sleep through the night and then take care of the kids the next day. I don't see any benefit in both of us being exhausted. So I sometimes will sleep on the couch and get my rest so that I can be 100% the next day so I can take care of my wife better. But I know some parents who switch back and forth throughout the night. Dad will take midnight through 4 o'clock while the wife sleeps. But it tends to be that the wife wakes up anyway. And so our agreement has been my wife does the night, and then I am during the day. And so she can nap during the night or during the day when she needs to, because everything will be taken care of. So I'm sure there's other things to chat about. We'll talk more about like a birth plan that you can bring to the hospital or the midwifery house, the birth house, with you in the next week's episode, and we'll talk more about the actual birthing process and how to prep yourself for that. But these are conversations that you can have with your wife to get ready. I'll just run through them real quick. Again, you'll want to talk about where to have the baby, the identity change that you're going to go through, whether or not to have a doula, circumcision, vaccines, medical leave and finances, breastfeeding, family. Are you going to have family in town? Food, your sleeping arrangements, and make sure you speak nicely to your wife during this time period. And I think that's it. That's easy, short list. You have 3 months to talk about those things. Take your wife out on a date. You got this. If you're expecting a baby, congratulations. It's going to be awesome. And join the DadWise community on Facebook to ask any questions that you might have. You can also leave comments, questions below in this video. But that's it for today. I will see you guys next week for another episode, the birthing day, B-Day. I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. Peace.